right. How many hip hop fans do we have out there? Sweet. I'm going to start out by playing a hip hop track that's popular online. So hip hop, as you all know, it's not just a style of music, it's a lifestyle, and it's a culture, and it's about how you dress, and it's about the philosophy of life that you live. It's a call for freedom. It's a beautiful style of music, and it's one that was foreign to me until I began to understand its spirit. You might know that hip hop has surpassed pop music on the top 40, Billboard Top 40, but this isn't about necessarily how hip hop's ranked or anything like that. This is about the heart of hip hop and its roots in the Bronx in the 1970s. It's about innovators, groundbreakers, and people looking to have a voice in a broken system. But this is also not just the story of hip hop. This is the story about how hip hop changed the way I see people experiencing homelessness. And we've probably all had that experience of being in our car at a street corner and seeing somebody asking for money on the street corner while we have our AC blasting, or been at a gas station and somebody coming up and asking for some spare change. My experience with homelessness begins in my birth city of Boston, Massachusetts, but this was many after. How many Massachusetts people do we have? One! Thanks for the shout out, though, that's great. So this was many years later, though, after my birth, and this is when I was attending a 5-week summer program at the Berklee College of Music. And there's, as you know, Dunkin' Donuts is huge in Boston, and so I went across the street to the Dunkin' Donuts, and there was a homeless man standing outside, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to buy this guy some food. So I came out with a banana, and I tried to give the banana to the guy, and he rejected it. He was like offended that I would try to give him a banana. And I thought, Owen, can't you see that homeless people just want money to buy alcohol, not for basic necessities? My next interaction with a homeless person was in Chicago, and this was a year later when I was auditioning for music schools. And so this one happened outside of a Starbucks, and it was the type of thing where I wanted to confront him, because of this last experience in Boston. I was like, I'm gonna talk to this guy. And I was like, why would I give you money? How do I know you're not just gonna buy alcohol with it? And that guy looked me straight in the eye and he said, man, how dare you judge me? How dare you assume how I will spend any money that you might give me? And I thought back to that year earlier in Boston, and I thought to this experience, and I realized that in just that short period of time, I suffered from a sweeping judgment and assumption about all homeless people. So I came to later find out that drug and alcohol addiction are a major factor that affect the homeless population. But my lesson was learned, that I couldn't make any assumptions about anybody. And it did start to bring up the question in my mind about what is this phenomenon of homelessness, though? And how do we address this? What do we do with this? And so many years later, I revisited that question after I had finished college and I moved back to Denver. And I had a roommate at the time that was actually a case manager at an organization called Urban Peak. And Urban Peak is a organization that serves homeless youth. And so he thought that because I work with high school and college age students that maybe I'd have a good connection with the youth there at Urban Peak. So he encouraged me to volunteer. And I did. And so I thought that, since I was doing a lot of music at the time and all that kind of thing, I didn't want to get involved with my volunteering involving music. And so I started a life skills class at Urban Peak. And I brought in 7 Habits for Highly Effective People, if you know that self-help book. And it started this dynamic right away of like me standing on this pedestal telling them how to live their lives. And I didn't mean to set that up, but it just sort of, that's the way that it felt. And so, fortunately, I brought in a kind of like arts and crafts activity one time based on the 7 habits, and it was to make one of those vision boards. Has everybody done that? Where you like cut out magazine pictures and write on the board and kind of just like really envision how you want the future to look. And all of a sudden the dynamic shifted. We were all sitting around a table and we were doing the arts and crafts class together. And we were talking informally, and they ended up sharing a lot more about themselves than in the other situation where I was trying to get them to talk about themselves through the life skills format. And so that was really powerful, and we ended up laughing together. And then something very interesting happened, which is that somebody actually asked me where I was born. And so my thoughts went back to Boston, to my experience there, and I realized that I hadn't truly been able to connect with the youth at Urban Peak yet. And I thought, you know, it's because you won't look at yourself as a fellow human being with them. Art has the power to connect people on the human level. So I turned that life skills class into a arts and crafts class pretty much right away, because of the type of interaction that we had and just how cool that was, that it was more informal and we were more on like a level playing field. And some years went by and it was really great, and I continued to get to know many of the youth there at Urban Peak. And then it was 2012, and I thought, you know what, I think I could be even more effective in connecting with people if it was through music. And so I finally let down that guard of not wanting to bring music into that environment, and I brought my acoustic guitar into Urban Peak. Now, those of you who know me know that my style of music is like James Taylor meets Simon and Garfunkel. So compared to that hip-hop track that I played at the beginning, it was a little far afield. And so a lot of the youth down there at Urban Peak would give me those sideline glances like, what is he doing? And just didn't really know what I was there to do with my acoustic guitar. But many of them were gracious to come over and write some songs with me. And usually it was only like 2 or 3 youth every time that I'd go down there, but it was still a lot of fun. Well, a year or 2 after that, I met a student here at CU Denver, and he was really interested in the work that I was doing down at Urban Peak, and he was also a hip-hop artist. And the first week that he came down to Urban Peak to check it out, he brought his laptop with some beats on it, he brought a microphone, a pair of headphones, and the youth swarmed around him immediately. There were like 12 youth immediately that wanted to come check this out, lay down raps, and all that kind of thing. And as soon as I saw that kind of enthusiasm, I thought, count me in. So we were able to raise some money for more equipment for the music studio so that the student didn't have to bring in his own equipment every week. And we started an official studio down at Urban Peak right around 2012, 2013. And the youth were very excited about this. You know, they were doing their raps, and sometimes they kind of put on a tough exterior with their rap persona and that kind of thing. But behind those exteriors, there were stories of a lot of pain. And I realized that I was hearing them retell my experience in Boston, but it was from the other side. You know, it was from the side experiencing the assumptions. It was from the side experiencing people looking down on them. And I realized that through hip-hop, and it was actually through that music and really their musical language, that I was finally able to see through the eyes of those experiencing homelessness. So to end, I'd like to come back to the power of hip-hop to transform and play you the end of the track that we started with.